Hello, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here with all of you today. I'm Seema Mody, correspondent at CNBC, joined by Raj Subramaniam, CEO of FedEx. He's been on the board of directors of FedEx as well. He served as president since 2019 and succeeded the company's founder in June of 2022. You also hold a number of board positions, including being the chair of the U.S.-China Business Council and vice chair of the U.S.-India Strategic Partnership Forum. Raj, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, and thank you. I appreciate you inviting me, and it's great to see you, Seema.
Well, you've had a whirlwind of a trip to Saudi Arabia, which we'll get into in just a moment, but I wanted to use this opportunity to unpack your success as CEO, Raj, from starting in India to now in Memphis, Tennessee, leading one of the most dynamic and important companies in the world of transportation and in the industrial complex. So let's start from the days in Trivandrum, where you were born. And
oh my God, okay. Yeah.
Do you remember those days?
Yes.
Which is, for anyone here from Kerala?
Oh, there's one right
one.
there, okay. Kindred spirit.
Walk us through some of those defining moments in Trivandrum that you think contributed to where you are today in corporate America.
Well, I think, that was the first 15 years of my life, and I think talking about Kerala and Trivandrum, I think it was one of the great foundations would be education. And I guess a lot of kids growing up in India at that time, education, in a middle-class family, education was the paramount thing. So that was what everyone focused on. But with the big difference for me, thankfully, the school I went to, and it's still very much recognized, that this one was multifaceted, meaning they paid importance to sports and art and other things, which many schools in India, I would say, wouldn't do. And they would focus very much on education and tuitions and this, that, and the other thing. So thankfully, I was not in that. I'm a sports nut very much by habit and action. So luckily, we had an opportunity to kind of build out not only a good, solid founding on basic education, but also something to do with more of a broader mind development. The other thing is obviously family. With a huge family, support was absolutely critical, and I still enjoy my time going back to Trivandrum. I get there once in every 4 months or so, and my parents are there, and I get there. So I really enjoy being back there and just getting back to the roots, so to speak.
What I found fascinating about your early days was at the age of 15, I believe your parents encouraged you to go to Mumbai and live with a family member, but essentially on your own at such a young age. What drove that decision, and what were you doing there?
When you say my parents, I think you're exaggerating that. It's my dad.
Okay.
And and he's a police officer. And it was pretty clear that he grew up in Mumbai or Bombay, that to really see the world, that you got to be out of a smaller town and you got to be out there. So it was pretty much a risk that he took. I was part of the risk that he took. And I moved to Mumbai not knowing much at all. But it was a incredible grounding. First few months I was lost. But then I took to it like fish to water. I go to Mumbai now, as much as our office is there too, so I get there. I really enjoy it because I know the city so well, and I've seen it kind of from the bottom up, so to speak. And it was a great outing. One of the great learnings, though, was adaptability. That you have to learn to survive. And to survive in a new environment, very big city, a lot of things happening. You're dealing with trains and buses and walking here and there and dealing with everything else. And somehow you just cope and adapt and play cricket around the way. So it's just, that was one of the great things that it taught me, and it kind of stuck with me through my life.
And what exactly were you doing in Mumbai? And was it this idea that you had to leave Kerala to get better educational opportunities that would help you grow?
I think the first to 10th grade education was outstanding. I wouldn't trade it for anything. But they have 10 plus 2 before you go to university. The plus 2 piece of it was what kicked off in Mumbai. But then what it led me to was the Indian Institute of Technology, and I was talking to one of my other alumni here earlier, and that was I would say a miracle. A lot of people spend a lot of time preparing for getting into IIT. I can assure you I did not, and I was playing cricket a lot, and somehow, thankfully, I got into it. So,
got it. And that, you think, opened many doors.
That opened a lot of, once you get, once you're in that institute, then everything, it's like a well-worn path, let's call it that, so that was what, I don't know whether my move to Mumbai triggered that or not, I can't tell you, but it happened. And, it was, like I said, I don't know what I did to deserve it.
And then did your passion for logistics and transportation, did it start there in India? There are a lot of challenges to face, to fix there.
No, I don't think so. At that point, my world was pretty narrow in the sense that you're just taking the next step and the next step and the next step. You're in a hyper-competitive environment in school where now you're competing with the smartest kids in the planet. And everything is based on, relative grading or a grader on a curve. And so it was a very, what I learned from that environment was, essentially thinking clearly and strategically and also competing. And, but also, at that point, if you think about it, the opportunities for good opportunities in India were not that forthcoming. So there was a well-worn path to go for higher education to America. So that's what, there was no concept of anything else. It was just like, go one step in front of the other and trying to do what's next. And the next step was come to America.
And that was Syracuse University. I imagine that was very cold for you coming from Cairo.
So I went to of course, there's no Google, there's no nothing, right? So I was researching and everything else just in a piece of paper, and top 20 schools for, at that point, chemical engineering. I think number 16 was Syracuse, and number 18 was University of Florida. And I had scholarships to go to both. And one was warm and one was cold. And, stupidly, because it was 16, I picked Syracuse. And I remember going to the consulate, U.S. consulate, and she says, it's going to be cold in Syracuse. Cold, I can deal with cold. Oh, little did I know.
Very cold.
Very cold, but I landed in Syracuse. I had this in my pocket. $2 bill.
$2.
That's all I had.
You still have it.
Yeah, I still have it. That was all I had. And I landed in Syracuse with this and an admission letter and a scholarship letter. That was it. And it was 70 degrees and sunny, and it was beautiful outside, and everyone was telling me, so great day. And I was wondering, why is everyone saying great day just because the sun is out? And secondly, I was freezing. So it went downhill from there pretty quick.
It seemed like it worked out. It made you tough. Because from there, it took you to Texas.
Yeah, no, you do. So Syracuse, by the time the next spring came around at 45, I was in my shirt sleeves, so the blood got thicker pretty quick. So it didn't seem to bother me. But yeah, then, finishing 6 years in engineering, I realized, it's like this blinders. You just kind of get through. And I realized I needed to, broaden my horizon, so to speak. And my only path at that point was an MBA. And that was tough to do because unlike the engineering school, which was you get funded for your tuition, MBA is not the same. You have to fund your own tuition. So again, you look at the list of top 20 schools, and this time with a different criteria. On the left-hand side was the top 20 school. On the right-hand side was the cost of tuition for one semester. And I put that down there. There's only one school that matched up, was University of Texas. That was like $5,300 of tuition, and I had only $5,500 or whatever I saved up. And that was it. So that was my decision criteria, and I was in Texas for that's how I did it.
And you got in.
I got into almost, but I can only afford one of them.
Right.
And so I got there, and then I had to figure out what happens after the first semester, which kind of luckily worked out.
You completed your MBA in 1991,
Yeah.
and right at a time where the U.S. economy was in a recession.
Yeah.
How did you find an opportunity?
Well, it was extraordinarily tough, I have to say, because once again, at that point, it was the depth of a recession, and I went through 200 or 300 different applications and multiple interviews, and usually when you get to the second step, when they find out that you don't have a green card, you're out. And so it was, I've been to many of them, and it was all done and no interview. So I was graduated in May, no job. June came along, no job. July comes along, no job. August comes along, and I'm still, last on my dollar, so to speak. I'm trying to figure out what to do. And I was with my apartment mate. I was walking to the apartment, and my apartment mate on the phone, he's like, no, I can't do that. He's already decided to leave the country. And I can't do that. And he hands the phone. I said, who's that? I said, that's FedEx. And they're coming to campus, and they want to interview me. I said, give me the damn number. You know? So I got the number. I called them over. I said, just talk to my roommate, and he's leaving, but I'm still here. Can I fax you my resume? So they said, sure, fax the resume. So I did. And, and they said, okay, come for the interview. So they came to campus. So by this time, my euphoria has already come back down. I'm like, okay, here's one more, So you go in there and, you walk in there, and say all the things you shouldn't say in an interview. I did not say good morning. I did not say hello. I said, I don't have a green card. And I said, straight up, I said, if that's a problem, I don't want to waste your time or mine. And they look at me like I have two horns coming out of my head. I said, son, let's figure out whether you have what it takes to do a job at FedEx, and we'll worry about your paperwork. So that's how that began.
They took a chance on you.
They took a chance on me, yes, and thankfully they did. Thank you. So it was just a stroke of good fortune, and like
persistence paying off.
Huh?
And persistence paying off.
Well, what choice did I have, right? We had to keep knocking on every door, and I guess it's probably one of the last doors that I had to knock on, to be honest. And so it kind of worked, and I was hired at one other thing. I remember the first question I got.
What was it?
My first question I got in the interview was, what is 51 plus 53 plus 55 plus 57 all the way to 99? And I said, I got this. This is my kind of interview. So, so anyway, it was, so I got the job, and, I moved to Memphis. I have no idea where Memphis was. I had to look at a map to find out where it was. I had no idea.
What was that like? I mean, you went from Texas, you got this job in 1991 at FedEx as a marketing associate, I believe.
Yeah, the lowest level in marketing, and see, this is the point about adaptability, So you just get adjusted to new circumstances. I just threw myself into it, and it was in I was the lowest level, but in international marketing, FedEx was just moving in international in a bigger way, and it was very much unformed. And so jobs were, the scope of the job was pretty broad, even though, because it's still, you're doing a lot of different things. And that excited me. I was working till 13, 14 hours a day, but it was fun because you was doing so many things and trying to, just fun. So, it was early going for FedEx International business, and I was doing a lot of different things. So yeah, that's how it got started.
When in your career, because you've been there over 30 years, did you feel like you were on the CEO track and you were starting to get groomed for this position?
Well, I don't know, but listen, my first pivotal moment came 5 years into the company, was when I got the opportunity to go to Hong Kong. And that was a big moment for me, because when I moved to Hong Kong, I had the opportunity to see Asia unfold, and China was very much, starting to come off and starting to take off. So we took off with China. And so see the tremendous growth and doubling our business in 3 years and so on and so forth. That was a great opportunity, personally and professionally, and to be able to live there and work for many years. So that's probably the first, to me, a big break nothing to do with CEO, but just see the business in its entirety. It's almost like working in a small business instead of bigger business, and to be in a startup environment, so to speak. That was fun. I think the first inkling would be when, after 7 years in Hong Kong, when I was offered the job of president of FedEx Canada. And that's the first general management role that I got, and I was pretty young at that time. I was probably the youngest one probably in that kind of role before. So that may have been a first inkling that something could be possible, yeah.
And now you are the second CEO in history of FedEx. How does that feel?
Well, it's a humongous honor because, our founder is, he just passed away a few months ago. He started this business, the only job he's known as CEO for 50 plus years. He built this incredible company and this network that is now FedEx step by step. And I had the opportunity to really work extremely closely with him. And so taking over as a CEO in any company is challenging by itself. But taking over from a founder puts it up at a whole another level, because there's so much that goes for it. And he was just masterful in helping me through that, because every word that he said mattered, and how he talked about it, and how he promoted me and everything else. And so that was very, very important. But it is a extraordinarily challenging thing as you deal with taking over from a founder. But Fred was just amazing. I mean, he was just so brilliant, a huge mentor of mine, big teacher. Learned a lot from him, not only business, but also history school, geography school, perspective, and everything else. So yeah, I consider myself hugely fortunate that I had the opportunity to spend time with him.
Going from Texas to Memphis, that must have been a bit of a culture shock, though, for you. I mean, it's a small town, mostly Caucasian. What did you do to find ways to assimilate while also holding on to your authentic self?
Well, I think this has happened to me throughout my career, because I have moved around quite a bit through school or through work and things like that. And I think the idea of adaptability is very key. So for me, that's important. And I think you just find common ground on areas that's interesting to you, and in areas that is important to our community, and for me, part of it is sports. I mean, it is very important. So you can latch on. When I was, there's basketball and, or hockey in Canada. I'm just sports nut. I can pick up any sport, I can follow anything. So you find common ground, and then you build off of it while you stick to your core. I mean, there's always, that's the way it is. But the mindset is very important. I think this is where I think a lot of people, I would say, there is a very, very fine line between judgment and curiosity. If you land on the side of curiosity, which is what I hope that I keep doing all the time, just be curious about why, what's happening, and why, and you probably learn a lot, and you actually understand a lot more. But if you land on the side of judgment, then you end up in a very different place. So I think there's that fine line. I think I've honed myself to be much, much more curious, I hope, and not be judgmental.
Open-minded.
I guess open-minded, yeah, so, yeah.
Let's now talk about what you're working on today, because you are sitting at a crucial stage in the company's evolution. We're talking about new technologies like artificial intelligence, what it could mean to any business, whether it will challenge them, whether it will displace them, whether it can be an opportunity to accelerate their current business. You just got back from that huge conference in Saudi Arabia. What's your take on how this AI landscape evolves?
Well, I think obviously, artificial intelligence, the idea of artificial intelligence had been here since the days of Ada Lovelace in the 1800s. And, even in the when I was going to school, the expert systems. And then you have neural networks and deep learning and so on and so forth. So it's not like AI itself is new, but then suddenly, starting in 2023, it just took off, because I think there's so much now that's out of the possible. But when you think about AI, and especially for companies like ours, what is really the fuel for AI is data. Data is ultimately the key to make AI successful. A lot of people think about AI as how do you make your jobs more efficient, this, that, and the other thing. That's all great. To me, that's a necessary condition, but not sufficient. It's how do you use your data, and how do you use your intelligence that you have with the tools of AI and provide new value for your customers or new value for new customers. That's the trick. Just using AI to get more efficient, that to me is just a necessary condition. That isn't exciting. Obviously, you got to do it, but that's not the exciting part. The good news for FedEx is, first of all, we are sitting on an incredible amount of logistics intelligence. We move $2 trillion worth of commerce every single year. We connect 3 million shippers to 225 million consumers every single day. We move 17 million shipments a day. So this referendum on global supply chain, we have. So we realized that not now, but back in 2020, and we started collecting and engineering the data. And in fact, I formed a company called FedEx DataWorks. And so along comes AI now. And suddenly, now I'm super powered because of the fact that now I can use these models to train myself on the data and create new value. So we now are expanding the role of what's possible. Our mission itself has evolved to make supply chain smarter for everyone. And so yeah, lots of great opportunities for us. And we're looking at AI very, very differently, like I told you, not only just efficiency, but expanding our value that we can create for our customers and new customers.
When we talk about efficiency, there's been a wave of layoffs. Amazon announcing 14,000 job cuts due in part to AI and the use of robotics. UPS cutting jobs as well. Are you expecting the same at your company?
Listen, for me, the AI is a growth opportunity. I think we have, we think we can use the business to grow business, and so we'll figure out opportunities. That's where my head is at, because I think, we just announced a partnership with ServiceNow, for example. ServiceNow is a horizontal that is, across customer workflows. One part of the workflow is supply chain. So that vertical for supply chain, we can provide incredible intelligence. So together we can provide new value. So that creates opportunities for growth. That means more jobs. That's the way we're thinking about it.
You think it creates more opportunity? Do you think it's inevitable, though? At some point, more companies will be taking a serious look at their bottom line and how to optimize costs?
Listen, there's always an efficiency component that you're going to have to, that's from a competition perspective, you have to get more efficient. There's no question about it. So if the technology and tools that gets you to do that, then we have to do that. So we have to look at that. But for me, that's not the exciting part. The exciting part is the new growth opportunities that creates more opportunities for people.
Seems like every day there's a company announcing a deal with OpenAI. Anything you want to announce right here?
Not right now. Listen, we are looking at a lot of opportunities with a lot of companies in the tech side, and we'll see.
What do you make of that circular web of investments? OpenAI, NVIDIA, AMD, Microsoft, Amazon. It seems quite like an interweb.
Well, I think first of all we have to. There's, clearly a lot of investments in the field of AI, and obviously, that's going to make a difference. Which ones are going to be successful, which is going to, fail in the medium term, only time will tell. Obviously, not all of them are going to be successful. It's just going to have to be where it is. From our point of view, when people are investing, especially in CapEx, and not in software, but in hardware, these things are real things, and they move. When they move, we have an opportunity to move them. So, I like it from that perspective, as the industrialization and reindustrialization of America, as well as the, as investments happen in hardware and things like that.
GPUs. Are you guys moving GPUs?
Yeah, of course we are. Yes, we are.
Yeah, because that requires a specific type of mechanism, right? I imagine these are very delicate.
You think about it this way. Many years ago, when I was in Asia and everything, we used to have these computers, and they were all big, but they all turned into this. So again, not great for me moving things, but now again we are moving big things. So I love it.
That's fascinating. Talk to us about the U.S.-China relationship, which, as I mentioned, you are the chair of the U.S.-China
easy interview here.
Business Council. We're fascinated. What are you seeing, especially in light of recent talks between President Trump and President Xi, where it seems like there is a de-escalation in
Yeah, no, I think it's a good thing. I think, first of all, when you think about the U.S.-China relationship, the people-to-people and the government-to-government relationship are not as strong a footing as they were. So the business-to-business community is where, at least there was some kind of relationship to kind of give a ballast to go forward. And so what has happened, hopefully, is that's a floor that's been drawn, and then announcement of a potential bilateral meeting in Beijing in the spring is helpful. And hopefully, then we move forward from here. I think it's. I think a lot of, especially the businesses, are looking for some kind of clarity on where things stand. And I think these communications and these meetings will actually provide more of those clarity. So that's been helpful. And we'll have to. This is a space you watch very carefully, and hopefully there's a win-win relationship that can be forged.
You think it's possible? I think there are some foreign policy folks who were skeptical of this trade de-escalation that we saw, because at the end of the day, China is seen as a strategic competitor, and the idea of our two countries actually working together meaningfully doesn't seem realistic.
Well, it's going to be different than so no question that it's going to be a different relationship than what it was 3, 4, 5 years ago. No question about that. This is going to be a different way. But at least if the rules of the game get set and there's clarity on where then the new equilibrium can get formed. It's in this period of uncertainty can settle. So I don't think you go back to where it was. I think it's a whole new set of equations that get formed.
Do you think this administration is doing a more effective job than the prior administration?
I can't tell you that. I mean, it's just.
Well, they're getting meetings. They're getting meetings.
No, there's just lots going on. I applaud the fact that they're making the serious effort to make sure that there's a good win-win relationship, and the U.S. has a good equation and good opportunities going forward.
I don't think people fully appreciate how big FedEx is in China. I mean, this is your second biggest market?
Yeah, I mean, we go where manufacturing is. That's the part of this equation. We are the heartbeat of the industrial economy, and so this is where manufacturing is in China. So that's why it's the second largest business for FedEx. So we've been there for a long time. So as many other companies, and so we serve most of the manufacturing companies that exist in China.
Do you see tariff-related costs going down based on the meetings that happened last week? Or
I think it's a floor. I think there's some, again, like I said, as we get more certainty, then businesses can plan better. That's what I expect. I don't think it's not going to go back to where it was, and that's not going to happen.
Are you, in the meantime, still diversifying your supply chain footprint outside of China, just hedging in case this doesn't work out?
No, it's not like that. It's like we are a referendum on global supply chains, meaning we are the derivative. So we go where the businesses go. We see supply chain patterns are changing right now, and there is more flow. You can look at the statistics. China, U.S. trade has come down. China intra-Asia has gone up. China-Europe has gone up. There's multiple parts of Asia going into non-U.S. markets like Latin America has gone up. So we're seeing all these patterns evolve and change as we speak. The fact that we already have a scale network in every part of the globe, connecting every part to every other part, the beauty is we don't have to do anything because we're already there. And so it's like we are there in Malaysia, we are there in Philippines, we are there in Thailand, we are in Singapore, we are in Indonesia. And so it's just connecting these dots in a different way, and so we will see it from the bottom up first, because as the patterns change, and they are changing.
I think when President Trump entered the White House, there was some level of optimism around the U.S.-India relationship and how that would lead to stronger ties, more trade. We've seen sort of the opposite in recent months. What do you think is holding?
Well, I still hope that I think there'll be at some point in time there's a potential for a win-win relationship there too. I hope so. I don't know. I don't know enough to answer that question as to where it'll go. but the opportunity is there, and there's could be natural trading relationship that could happen, and the potential could be huge. Yeah.
Talk to us about, given that we have a lot of people from India here, the presence that FedEx has in India, and how you've made that a bigger hub since becoming CEO.
Well, no, I think it's we have seen significant growth in the Indian market in the last few years, and so I think that's been exciting for us to see, and that region is important because of the growth potential there, and it's a fast-growing economy, and trade is part of the growth. So it's been successful. I hope that it continues.
What did you make of the latest meetings you've had with Prime Minister Mody? I know you've met him now multiple times, whether it's in India or when he comes to the U.S., you're part of the delegation. What did you make with your exchanges with him?
Well, I think it's very business-friendly conversation. That's what I like about it. It's just very much pro-business environment, and so that's been helpful. And we've had the idea of manufacturing in India, and the idea of the fact that logistics is a key component of manufacturing, and they go hand in hand, and the efficiency of logistics is critical. I think that that's clicked, and you can see that several infrastructural developments is happening in those regards, and the PM's Gati Shakti plan that was announced was basically about infrastructure and logistics. So that's very encouraging, and we'll see.
What do you think is the biggest challenge holding up India's manufacturing base? I speak to Apple, General Electric, Caterpillar, and I'm often hearing that it's the talent issue. There's still not the talent needed.
There's still a takeoff stage that has yet to happen. I think there's a lot. Yeah, I think the ecosystem of manufacturing is it doesn't happen overnight, and that it takes a while. But slowly but surely you can see that our traffic is growing, and you can see the manufacturing goods are a key part of that traffic growth. That's growth. So while is it the end game is here? No, there's still a long way to go, but it's in the right direction.
Talk to us about the latest trip you took to Saudi Arabia and just the Middle East, what we are seeing from that region.
Well, it was, when I was in Saudi, the investments that are being targeted in the region is quite significant. And I was struck by the number of companies, whether it's infrastructure development, whether it's technology, whether it's healthcare, that, are now, targeting that region of the world. And usually money comes in ahead of is a leading indicator, and it's quite interesting. So it's very we're watching it very carefully, obviously, and we see there's potential there.
You think it can last, this surge in investments that the Middle East is making?
What I saw, at least, I think this is something that was here to stay, yeah.
And will it sort of create this new balance, and will the world will shift more towards the Middle East, you think, over time, or is this just a one?
I don't know, it's shifting. I think that, like I said, the patterns themselves are completely changing, and so there's much more intra-regional trade, and new locations to new locations, and new buyers, new sellers. Ultimately, human beings want to trade and travel. That's just. And now armed with technology like the phone, which is an order entry device, and technologies and systems like FedEx, we can get it there. So things have changed, and so people are going to find new areas, new avenues. So I think it's not that one particular. It's like the patterns themselves are changing, and we are right in the middle of this change. I think we are gone from one set of equilibrium, and we'll take probably another couple of years to get to the next set. So we are in the middle of that environment.
Exciting time to be CEO.
Change is always exciting, and you have to make your opportunities when things change.
What is the biggest challenge you would say you're facing right now? What problem are you trying to fix?
Well, I think I think from the things we can control, from our point of view, I'm excited, very excited, because I think both from the fact that we have the physical network out there in place, we are the heartbeat of the industrial economy, and we're trying to make supply chains smarter through technology. we're good. It's the unforeseen or uncontrollable things that we're going to have to find and deal with. But you know what? That's just part and parcel of life.
Part of life, part of leading a multi-billion-dollar company. We're going to open it up now to questions from our audience, from HR Society and Pratham. So if you can please raise your hand, someone will come to you with a mic. And if you can please state your first and last name and ask the question. Yes, right here.
Thank you. I'm representing Nantucket, 30 miles in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Our population in the summer is 80,000, during the year is 22,000. In 2024, FedEx closed our office. And for 1 year, we want you back. So that's your challenge. Please come back.
Okay, I've noted it. Thank you. I'll follow up. I didn't know about Nantucket, so I'll...
Okay, more of an observation. Yes, right here.
Good evening. I'm Shirley Lui, investment manager, and have followed FedEx for the longest time. And I have the pleasure of meeting you, Mr. Subramaniam, and I love your story. I will not ask you anything hard.
Okay.
I would just like to know if you can discern what are the characteristics of your personality or your character that propelled you from Kerala in the middle of nowhere. Except, people in India may know of it, I have a hard time finding it, but nevertheless, propelling you from Kerala to become the CEO of FedEx. And on top of that, the secondary question. As you all know, we are now totally faced with this wonderment and the dilemma of AI. And I would humbly request you to share with the younger generations to say, what must you do and keep it in your focus so that you can smoothly serve this massive oncoming wave of technology? Thank you.
Well, thank you for the question. Firstly, I would hardly characterize Kerala as middle of nowhere. So, it's just actually a different center point. Listen, at the early going, it was basically one step at a time, going forward and take care of what happens the next day with no idea, no concept. In fact, when I joined FedEx, if someone had told me that this is a job I would be doing 34 years later, I would have said I had a much better chance to play for the Indian cricket team. There is no way that this was even conceivably part of the plan. But I think at the end of the day, the strong educational background, the ability to think critically, a competitive spirit, the ability to adapt and to stay curious. I think those are some of the things that have led me in this religion. And then the idea of leadership. I think especially in an environment like when our company is, a lot of people leadership is very, very important. And those started to form very early in my life. And so I was trying, those are some of the things that have foundationally have stood with me as we move along in different things. I'm not afraid to learn new things. I'm always open-minded in terms of new things, new technology, new anything. And so that to me is an important thing. And the other thing is to carry people along on your vision is really important. So those are some of the things I would say. It obviously is not a formula that you write down on a piece of paper and then go, but it's worked for me. As far as AI question is concerned, I think it's a very important question. If you're coming up as a youngster today, what would you do? And some of the traditional things that people have done may be made redundant in this age. And so I think there is some fundamental core truths about, okay, do you really, creativity, about, first of all, core knowledge, not rote knowledge, but core knowledge. Do you truly understand how things work? And to be able to put it together in different patterns and ways, are you creative in your thinking? And, so those are the kind of things that get much, much more important than rote knowledge and something that can be repeated easily by a computer. And it's not easy, but I think it just requires a little bit change in focus. And of course, in tools, people are getting trained in AI tools now, starting in very, very young age. That's probably par for the course at this point.
Great, thank you. Yes, right over here.
Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. Monica Chava. I'm a member of Asia Society and also Thai New York. Thank you for being here today. I have a kind of like a two-part question, but it's very short. So,
sure.
So first, we all know the restrictions and the tariffs that have been imposed by this administration to promote U.S. manufacturing first. Have you noticed a shift in U.S. manufacturing versus taking it to the East? And the second part is how likely will India be, in becoming a key player in manufacturing after these tariffs and restrictions have been imposed? Thank you.
Well, I think the policy of reindustrialization of the United States and manufacturing in the U.S., I think it's a bit early to say, but I think in the next 2-3 years you'll see it. And just the level of investments that's going on in this country now in this space has to result in this activity. So the question is going to be, can things be produced competitively and on time and compared to the world markets? And those are the questions. I think they'll get answered. And so you should see that, but too early, but it's coming. And as far as India is concerned, my hope, this is now theoretical, I don't know, my hope is that there is a baseline again drawn, and that there's a win-win situation for both markets. I think that's what's going to happen, but again, your bet is as good as mine.
Yes, right here.
Yeah, hi. I'm Shiva Ganapati. I'm an investment manager here. We last met in 1997 in Hong Kong. We'll talk about it later, maybe outside.
Okay.
My question is, it's indeed true that logistics is the heartbeat of industrial economy, and you're right there in the forefront of it. My question is, as global logistics firms are under increasing pressure to cut carbon footprint, to that end, what is it that FedEx is doing in terms of specific steps to cut the emissions, and especially at this point in time, also the transitioning into electric vehicles?
Thank you. So we were one of the first companies to announce that we would be carbon neutral by 2040, and the three components to it. One was the vehicles. We have 200,000 vehicles. And so electrification was the answer, but it's obviously going to depend upon what infrastructure is available. And so that's our idea. We're going to push forward towards that, and we'll see where that goes. The second one was for 5,000 facilities, and those are they can be converted into carbon neutral more easily. Then there's airplanes, 700 of them. That's more difficult. The conventional answer is sustainable aviation fuel, and we are doing obviously everything we can do to convert that and make sure that we do that. However, we think that's not enough. So we actually have invested over $100 million and created the Yale Center for Natural Carbon Capture. We didn't even put the FedEx name on it. We just call it, it's like, as you can see, we put the money down. We actually attracted other funds from other companies to create some fundamental research in this space so that the entire aviation sector can be carbon neutral. And we are in early going in this point. It's been up and running for a couple of years. And there are some initial learnings actually that's happened, and some have been implemented, but there's a lot more to come. So this is a very longer term subject, but at the same time, We are also creating, for us, because of our technology now, every package has got a fingerprint. We also created a carbon footprint for every package. So now we're giving accounting to our customers on their carbon footprint, and we're able to advise, not at the high monthly level, but on every package level, how they can account for the carbon footprint as well. So we're working on all sides of this equation. It's a lot of work. It's very important, and we are progressing. A lot more to go. Thank you.
Yes, right here in the front.
Hi, thank you, Seema. Raj, Brandon Oglinski from Barclays. I've also covered you for quite some time. I guess we talked about India, but can you talk about the shifting supply chains that you're seeing in Southeast Asia right now? Maybe compare and contrast that today with the tariffs on all countries from the U.S. versus the first initial trade war with China back in 2019. And then maybe on a more curiosity level or adaptability level, if you could go back 3 or 4 years from now, before you stepped into Mr. Smith's shoes, what would you tell yourself that you know now that you wish you did then?
Yeah.
Good question.
Thank you.
Oh, man. Okay. The first part of the thing is that clearly, and I was just in Tokyo and just talking to our team, the traffic patterns are changing. So maybe sometime before, the traffic was to go from one part of China to another part of China and then out. Now it's going from China to Malaysia and then out, or China to Vietnam and then out. And the other thing is the demand itself is changing. So it's actually traffic that was destined to the United States, that's because of, different reasons have been decreased, but the mix of intra-Asia or to Latin America has increased, even to Europe, for that matter. A lot of the trading patterns are now intra-regional trade is now significantly increased. So we are in the middle of this, this shift right now. As I said, this is going to take a couple of years to reach a new level of equilibrium, and it's changing as we see. We see it from the bottom up. And from a FedEx point of view, the fact that we already have a scale network in place, we are able to capture those flows without significant changes. Something here and there, but more than ever, we can catch it. So, we can read, I think when you go back and look back at this in two years from now, you'll see how these patterns are changing. And ultimately, I think the balance of the flows are going to be very, very different. So that's happening there. As far as your second question is concerned, back in 2019, I took over as COO, and then, it was 3 years, and Fred was giving more and more responsibility to me. So it was like a very well-planned thing. And then, in 2022, so I thought I was doing 90% of the job by the time I got the job, so I felt comfortable. But what I was not ready for was that the number of stakeholders that came in through the door, the minute the CEO title landed. And the biggest thing that I learned was time was your most precious asset. And that you really have to manage that time. So I had to go back and think through very carefully, what is my job? And what exactly is my job? And then make sure I wrote it down, and then clean out my calendar, zero it out literally, and just back it up and so only put the things on my calendar that actually fit that job perspective, and had to rebalance my life. Otherwise, I was just getting to a place where it's impossible to deal with, and there's not time enough in the day. So for me, that learning, I thought I had it, I thought I knew, I thought I was doing it, but it was not, that it's just that change that happened was quite dramatic.
Very interesting. Yes, right here in the middle.
Hey, Seema, Raj, great interview. It's a real honor to meet you, Raj, at least this way. I've been tracking your career for a long time. An MBA myself, started off as a marketing analyst.
Oh, there you go.
It's rare that folks in marketing end up making the CEO role. As Indra said, I'm never speaking at your organization. I have one for South Asians in marketing. She goes, because I'm from finance. What marketers ever become CEOs? You did it, so congratulations. I love it.
Thank you.
There we go. Let's give him a hand.
Thank you.
I have a question. Two. The first a little bit more in depth. The second very easy. There was a first generation of Indian Americans or Indians that came in America and became big leaders in organizations. You never heard about them. Mickey Pant was CMO of Reebok some 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Ivan Menendez, obviously at Diageo, whom you probably know. I mean, yep. There are probably a lot of relationships there. Everyone knows. Indra, obviously, more on the second kind of group that emerged. And now you have Satya, Sundar, yourself, Lakshman, I mean the list, Krishna, and that's just tech. We have brands like Chanel being led by an Indian American woman. We got a website that hopefully most people haven't heard of called OnlyFans that was run by an Indian woman. So with this orbit and ecosystem, and it's being at Asia Society, it's such a great thing to unpack from your perspective. Do you get the sense that there's some common themes amongst this cohort that has led to so many South Asians in these roles? Or is it a function of, hey, one, it's a population, it's leaving and looking for growth opportunities, leaving India? But just, can you unpack that a little bit? If you've seen some common themes across folks, because it is remarkable that almost half of the progress in the S&P has been led by companies that happen to be led by South Asians or Asians. So I'm just curious your perspective on that. Are there some things you'd give advice on, some common themes, things that we're terrible at and good at? And the second question, you keep talking about sports. What's your favorite sport that you were terrible at, that you were an epic fail? You were like, I tried it, didn't work, but I'd be curious as an athlete.
That's a tough one.
Good one.
Well, first of all, on the marketing side of the house, so which you didn't ask me, but I think the good news when I joined FedEx, the marketing job was actually when I heard Fred talk about it very early in my career at FedEx, saying the network design for international is the value proposition, marketing needs to own it. So that was the intersection of engineering and marketing, and it kind of landed on my lap. And so that was very helpful because a lot of the people in marketing had no idea what the heck he was talking about. And I was like, put me in, chief, I got this. So that was helpful. So there was a little bit of intersection there that helped. But the question you asked is, I have thought about it. I wish I had a pat answer, but the reality is that back in the 80s and 90s, when people were, a lot of people moved here, it's like 30 years down the road. And, we had a lot of top talent from India move over. And the world itself became much more technologically oriented. It was not the case in 1991 or 1995. And, so I think that was the intersection of things that happened. People coming in droves, top talent coming in droves. You're down 35 years where people have moved through the organization. The importance of technology became significantly more important. And you put all these forces together and, the language of English, the business practices being consistent, the thought processes being the same. It's like the old Bollywood movies where the twins get separated at birth. That's what the Indians in America. I mean, like it's just there's a lot of things that are common: democracy and rule of law, language of English, the soft infrastructure. So those all kind of play a part, and I think that ultimately that has resulted in. I don't think there's any orchestrated strategy, nothing like that. I think it's just the way the world worked. I mean, so that's where I see it. As far as sports is concerned, I feel like I'm good at every damn sport I play. So just kidding. The things that I'm not good at right now is golf. So I haven't played, so I don't know. But I know that if I get in there, and I'm going to kill myself trying to get good. So.
Yes, one last question here at the top. Right on the top there. Not tennis?
I'm good at tennis.
Yeah, okay, great.
No cricket.
I'm good at cricket.
Okay. You're a testament to the remarkable success of Indian immigrants in the U.S. However, the visa restrictions, we're seeing a slowdown in the number of Indians coming here to study and work and build their families. With politics growing its influence in everyday life more and more, do you think America can continue its global dominance, and are our best days behind us?
Good one.
Well, I think, we can't judge what's going to happen based on policy situation on a particular moment in time. I think at the end of the day, America has been built by immigrants over the course of its history, and I think that's the way it's going to be. And, so I'm not totally worried about that right now.
You think there's room for change in that policy?
I don't know. We'll see. But I think you got to take a longer-term view on this thing.
Especially if it's good talent that the
Yeah,
U.S.
I think
needs.
talent is talent, and eventually, I think people, like I said, ultimately like to trade and travel, and talent will, there'll be an equilibrium. There'll be ways around these things, and so you just can't make those decisions based on, point happenings. You got to take a more broader view of these things, and I think ultimately what makes America, successful, I think, I don't think it'll fundamentally change.
Raj, it's been a wide-ranging conversation from AI to trade to your background. Thank you so much.